going?
What's going on, David?
Nothing much.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
John, what's up, man?
Joe, how are you?
Hey, you know what's weird? I just looked at when we did that interview. We did it before the world shut down.
I know, because my record came out in February of 2020, and I
Wow.
had just done my CD release gig at Smalls, and then Armageddon. So yeah.
Well, I will tell you from Kansas
Armageddon.
City, I used to go. That's fun. It's funny because we're doing a father-son thing here. I used to go watch the Chiefs games with my dad, and he used to always call them the Kansas City Griefs. And there was kind of this underground joke that if the Chiefs ever did win another Super Bowl, the world would come to an end. And after we had the parade, bam, it all ended.
Yeah, I'm surprised it didn't happen after my Red Sox won the World Series in '04. So
You know what, man? I have never been a Red Sox fan, but I remember that year my son, again, father, son, there's something in the air. My first son, Miles, named after Miles, was born, and I got real nostalgic because I gave up on baseball. When they struck in '94, I was like, see you later, I'm out. And I think it was the Red Sox that pulled me back in. And I remember I got the hat and I was really pulling for the whole thing. And who knew that the magic would come from, of all people, Davey Roberts. He started the whole thing.
Oh yeah, man, stealing that base.
That's it.
Barely. So.
It's amazing. The older I get and the more I watch baseball, it's amazing how the magic and uncertainty of all of it just unfolds. Like to see the Astros lose last night, I wish one of those guys on the Rangers would have just ignored the reporter and looked right in the camera and said, America, we did this for all the teams that lost this year. We knocked these guys out with a resounding boom. I would have loved that.
That was crazy last night. It reminded me of Game 7 when the Sox in '04 came out and just lambasted the Yankees in the first inning to sort of break the curse. And anyway, you could get me on a deep dive about that. I wouldn't stop. I'm a psycho about it. So my poor son has had to grow up under the guise of a psycho Boston fan.
Can confirm.
That's okay. But you know, the last thought I'm going to say about the Astros is they create a karmic trail by what they did by throwing that pitch and denying it. I think they intentionally wanted to hit him. I think they started a fire and the ire came out. He smashed home runs and he made all of those Astros sit silent in their chairs. So be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, I have some very unhappy friends in Austin this morning and Houston.
Well, let's move on to happier things here, Jazz.
Yeah,
music.
Man.
It's so good to catch back up with you. I mean, you know, who would have known that the world was going to go through what it went through for as long as it did? And it really did take a hold on the jazz community. So each of you respectively, how did you get through this pandemic? And how has it changed you now that we're coming out and you got a new album?
I'll let David talk about it first because he was in college at the time. So maybe David, you could talk about it first.
Yeah. I was in college. And I was in college in Florida, which is also like interesting in a way. Yeah, I mean, I guess just sort of in like a more positive light. Like I feel like that moment like really made me grateful for the little things in life. And I guess when it comes to music, when things started easing up a little bit, first, so yeah, it was, I guess it was, I forget what year it was when I was in college, but yeah, I was studying my undergrad and they sent us all home. And of course it was the time like we were like washing groceries and like letting our packages sit out overnight. It's like we had no idea what was going on. But I feel like the one thing that was keeping me sane was just like taking walks around my neighborhood. Like I feel like I just had such a greater appreciation for just like going outside.
Yeah.
Like I would just walk everywhere that I'd like in the neighborhood that I'd never been before in my life. Like I would go to like weird places in the woods or like around the cemetery or like but yeah, I guess when it comes to music as well, like when things started easing up, I used to go to my friend Miles's house because he had sort of like a nice outdoor area where we could play like distanced. And it was funny, they would actually put like tape
Yeah.
on like the patio for so we could like, and it was like tape so we could like know how far to be apart from each other. But I just feel like I gained like such a greater appreciation just for like being able to play it all. Just because some people like didn't even have like the means to do that. Like I was lucky I had a friend that had like an outdoor space that we could like play safely.
Yeah.
I
Like
might add, these guys were out there playing when it was really cold. They just didn't care.
Oh yeah, every weather condition, like super cold, super hot. Like, I mean, we just that if like I didn't do that, I don't know how I would have made it through like the pandemic. Honestly, like that saved me. Like just being able to do that, you know.
So how did this project come about? I mean, has this been cooking for a long time? How did the nexus, the beginning of this begin?
Well, I mean, David has been coming out to gigs since he was a young man, and this wasn't like a rocky situation where I forced him to play trumpet or anything, you know.
Yeah, what the heck? Yeah. Why would you do this to me? Yeah.
But honestly, like he just has loved it for so long, and he's been traveling with me to like sit in at Ronnie Scott's or whatever. And so over the years, we've just been playing a lot together. And if you know, my poor wife, she's on the main level of the house with the TV on closed captioning, and David's up in his room practicing, and I'm in the basement practicing. And so there's been horn everywhere. And but you know, it was oftentimes, you know, Dave would come down the basement and we would play duets or we'd play along to play along record and just, but in terms of the record, it got to a point where David was subbing my gigs, you know, and now he has all his own gigs. But when it really got to the point that there was no difference between David and the guys who I play with, you know, and like we were just like, we have to do a record together. And I think some of that idea was, you know, formed during the pandemic when we were forced to spend so much time together. David was home a lot from the University of Miami his junior year. And then when he moved back to New York to finish up at Juilliard, he was now around all the time. So he was back in New York starting 2.5 years ago to do his master's. And that's when we really said, like, you know, I mean, this is honestly the greatest joy for me to make a record with my son. And, you know, of course, he wrote, you know, 5 of the 9 tunes. And it's just, we've graduated to that point where Dave is just one of the cats. And it's really, really fun. And I have to stop doing that thing on stage when he's playing his butt off, where I'm just sitting there like smiling like a proud dad. I have to maintain cool, you know. I can't, you know. Now I'm just I live in fear because he's playing so well that he's gonna crush me on the bandstand. So, but yeah, we're just we started talking about it, and then we wrote all the music, and then we found the guys we wanted to use. Guys I've been playing with for years, especially Andy and Ugonna, who I've been playing with for 30 years. And then, you know, we rehearsed thoroughly, and by the time we went into the studio, it was basically like a day and a half. We just mowed it down. So it's like super exciting.
Right on.
Yeah, man.
So, David, is this technically your debut?
Yeah. I mean, I played I was actually a guest on my dad's like I wrote the last song on the Scrapper, which is called Dinosaur Eggs, and I have a solo on it. But this is technically as like a leader kind of situation. Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously, John, you've dreamed about this, but I want to know from you, David, because parents have to be very careful about pushing and allowing room and allowing, there's this separation of DNA and manifest destiny, and you want to make sure to honor that. So what was your dream growing up? Did you always think, I've been around jazz, this is my life, this is what I'm going to do? What was your idea of what your life was going to be?
Yeah. I mean, it just came naturally. Like it just like, I don't know, it was just kind of like fate, I guess. I mean, yeah, I just knew I mean, like when I started, I was like, I want to be like my dad, and I mean, also like we just have like a massive, like a comically massive musical family.
Mm.
Like an absurd amount of people in our family play music. It's almost just like it was just gonna happen. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was just
So
gonna happen.
so if you don't play music in the family, you're the black sheep, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Like it's
Oh, we
actually absurd how many people.
trust me, we would have been happy with a doctor, lawyer, accountant. That would have been
Right.
fine.
Oh yeah, they told me. They were like, "Are you sure you don't want to like have a like all right, good luck."
Yeah.
No sugarcoating, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, the interesting thing, one of my two favorite people in the world of jazz is Leo and Ben Sidran. And I've always loved those guys, and they have such a tight relationship. And it seems like having this opportunity to perform together, you get to maintain a relationship in a way that maybe you never thought you would be able to.
Yeah, it really is special, and you probably noticed Leo wrote the liner notes for the record,
Yeah.
and my last two records, this one and the previous, and we've had some long, deep talks about it, and they have such an incredible, special relationship. It really is amazing. But yeah, I mean, just being able to do this is probably brings me a lot closer to David than if he was working an accounting job or whatever. I mean, I'd see him if he was in New York or wherever he is, but like it is every couple weeks we might end up on something, or I show up on one of his gigs. He was playing this killer quintet gig out in Brooklyn on Sunday night, and I was like, let's go. So I get to see him play, and that's it's really fun. It's also been a thing. Like I was on the road earlier in September, and I caught COVID for the first time. And David ended up subbing a bunch of gigs at the Roxy, and just really killing it. So I have my top call sub.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for my sub calls from David. I'm still waiting. But
How would you know?
but the relationship is really brings us together in so many ways.
Yeah.
Of course, we do all the father and son stuff. Like if Predator or Jaws is on, of course we're locked in and we're watching that on the.
Yeah.
There's those fun things, but this bond is amazing. And it doesn't have to be every day. And I'm trying to give him his space, but like he'll come across a record. He's like, "Have you heard this Chet Baker record? This is insane," and that's the fun. That's the real fun.
Yeah, for sure. So I know I really enjoyed listening to this album. It's funny because I was listening to it with my son while we were driving around quite a bit. Um, what are you ultimately hoping the listener gets from this album?
Oh, wow, that's a great thing. I think that's multi-layered. I'll let David answer after me, but uh, I think coming out of the pandemic and where we were, this is mostly an expression of joy. I mean, this is like not only on the obvious father-son thing, which is kind of unique to have two people on the same instrument make a record who are father and son, but just this record is, from the get-go swinging, and it's a feel-good record in my opinion. And for me, this is the greatest outlet in life, and I want people to feel that like it's our chance to express ourselves entirely with like, nobody telling us what to do. This is exactly the music we want to play, when we want to play it, how we want to play it. And I'm just so happy with the feeling that the band got. In an age of like where chops is everybody's so fascinated with chops. You know what I mean? To me, the feeling, because so many people have chops now. Like to me, the feeling is there, and you know, I of course I like listening to it. It's my record, but I like hearing guys who put the band and the tunes above their ego, and it's for me, it's a really cohesive effort,
Yeah.
and I'm really proud of it.
I,
D-Man?
yeah, no, definitely to like continue off of that. It's just like, I don't know, like music brings people together and creates like families. Like to me, at the end of the day, that's like what the music is about. It's not about how many changes you can make or like how many likes you have on Instagram from the good solos that you played. Like it's like about it brings like the music brings a lot of people together from like in like inner like from different generations, like totally different generations and like different walks of life. And yeah, I feel like that's what the album is about.
And I think for you, this is your initial shout into the jazz world. Do you feel any pressure with that? How do you feel? What's your overall feeling of this being kind of your debut imprint in the world of jazz?
I mean, maybe I'm just like trying not to be like concerned about that. I mean, it's like like the jazz world is like a very scary world. And it's like, yeah, there are a lot of like, there's just so many musicians. Like it's such like an overcrowded field, but I feel like you just can't be concerned about that. Like I'm mostly just doing this for me and for my dad. Like, you know, I don't know if you have anything to say.
No, but I think that's a good viewpoint. I mean, it's, when you move to New York and you're trying to establish yourself, I felt the same pressures 30 years ago when I moved here. It's that, oh, there's no room for me here. You know what I mean? But like,
Yeah.
you start to carve um, your niche as a player and a teacher and a writer and all these kind of things. And, the best thing you can do is really focus on yourself. And I think that from
Yeah.
a from an album and a band standpoint, the more you please yourself, I think the more apt you are to please others, and I think that comes out in the music. So,
Yeah.
um, but this is obviously a big time for David. He's trying to establish himself, and he's playing some really cool gigs, and he's got some touring coming up. So this is a really like to just be done with school and establish yourself in New York it's daunting, but
It's
we're
very
proud.
done. I'm so scared and stressed, but I'm figuring it out. I mean, yeah.
Hey, he's in his own apartment with some roommates. I think his room is about the size of a broom closet, but he's
It's
figured it out.
pretty small, but
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
it.
that's it. So
Yeah.
if anyone wants to pick up the brand new album or learn about live shows, anything that you guys are doing together or separately, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, we're pretty lame on the websites thing, but on Instagram,
Yeah.
David's Instagram or my Instagram, we have two really big gigs coming up. We're playing our CD release at the Roxy, the club called the Django,
Yeah.
on November 1st at 7:30 with a fantastic band. Unfortunately, Jeb Patton can't make that, so I don't know if you know Adam Birnbaum,
Yeah.
fantastic players, going to be joining us. So that'll be fun. And then a couple weeks later, we're playing at Smalls on November 19th. And then we're in the process of setting some other things up. We're about to book Sam First
Yeah.
in LA. And so we're going to parlay that into some West Coast gigs after the new year. And yeah, I want to put together some little mini tours.
Yeah.
We're not the big guys who have like management handling us, but we're going to
Yeah.
bootstrap it into some gigs. And we're busy ourselves with our own careers, but we are really keen to put some mini tours together. I mean, you know how this is crazy. We're going to go places and we're going to have to pick up bands and rehearse them for us to, unless it's like a major festival or as a teaching component, it's going to be pretty exorbitant for us to drag the band around.
Yeah.
But I'm not David's age anymore. I don't share hotel rooms and drive 500 miles.
Yeah.
I'm
Those
a
days are
geezer,
over.
man. I need my comfort.
That's it.
I'm used to touring in comfort.
Yes. Well, I will tell you the one thing that I kept thinking over the pandemic, and I know we talked before it, but a lot of those interviews around that time, I kept thinking it's going to be so nice to catch up after this is all done, to see the material that was produced, to see that everybody's back at it. So it's so good. And this is extra special for Father Son. So thank you so much for taking a minute out today. Best of luck with the album. And as your careers expand forward, I appreciate it.
Oh, well, we really appreciate you sharing the
thank you so
music.
much.
It means the world to us. I mean, just the initial messages we're getting from people sending us that they listen to the record, it just means so much. You know, I mean, we're not big stars, but for every voice that hears this, we are like eternally grateful and we appreciate it.
Good luck with everything, guys, and hopefully at some point you swing through KC. We'd love to see you.
I've been meaning to do that. I think it's going to happen next year.
Okay.
There's a trumpet festival that happens down in Pittsburgh, Kansas.
Okay, good.
Oh yeah.
That I've been a guest at twice, and I think we're going to come back next year and parlay.
Oh shoot, yeah.
Guest appearance there with an appearance in Kansas City. I also have some friends in Kansas City, so we're going to make a thing of it this coming.
I love it. I love it. Cool, man. Guys, thank you so much. Best of luck.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Take
See
care.
you later.
See ya.